You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Hello, I'm Steven Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media with Yahoo Sports and a former Ole Miss staff member, and I'm joined by, I'm just going to say it, Michael, my favorite sports personality inside the state of Mississippi. Yes, I listen to the Rebel Report every single week. It is my most listened to podcast on the Ole Miss story beat. It's fantastic. You have very measured, non-biased takes. I like your sports takes. They're common sense filled. I just generally enjoy the listen whenever I'm out on my 30 to 45 minute walk every day. So I do appreciate that, man.
Well, thank you. And your check is in the mail.
Yeah.
It's going to be a small one, but you know, I'm oh gosh, who said this? Daniel Tosh. I'm a baller on a budget is what I am. So you're getting a check, but it's going to be a small one.
Yeah. Hey, whatever, right? Yeah, that's all you have to do. But I do appreciate it, man. You're really good at what you do, and I wanted to say in front of everybody, thank you for everything.
Of course, and thank you. I'm just happy to be able to do it.
Yeah. So today I was getting ready to interview you because we've had this scheduled for a couple of days. And it was like, hey, we're going to talk about Wake Forest. We're going to talk about all the football stuff that everybody's expecting. And then lo and behold, an hour before we go on the air and record, Ole Miss drops a new helmet. The new Realtree helmet was released. They're going to wear it for Oklahoma. I thought they were going to wear it for Georgia because the Jordans are from Georgia. For whatever reason, I figured I was going to do a 2+2 type situation. But in this situation, 2+2 sometimes equals 3. So Oklahoma makes a little bit of sense. But, hey, this is a good-looking helmet. I think this is better than the last Realtree helmet.
Yeah, I'd like it. And it's subtle, but it's not at the same time. What I have loved, and there it is right there, I think that's a good look. And I think the merchandise that, if they haven't released it, I assume that they're going to soon, that coincides with that helmet is going to look really good, and people are going to like it. Frankly, I've got my little guy wearing some Realtree stuff. He loves to go fishing, and he loves the fishing stuff that they have, the light, like long sleeves and whatnot. So, you know, we're a Realtree family ourselves, and I think the merch is going to look great on top of it. But what I love about what Ole Miss does with uniforms, with the Realtree thing, and then just with like the new white with the powder blue and stuff like that, it still looks like Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm. Ole
Miss has a great color scheme. They have good-looking uniforms. So when they do alterations, they don't blow everything up. Like that looks still like an Ole Miss helmet. They didn't blow it up. They didn't change the script. It's not colors that don't make sense. It still looks very much like Ole Miss. So you have like the new, but also still keeping in line some degree with tradition. It makes all the sense in the world. And of course, again, we wear Realtree stuff in this house. So Realtree looks good. They're obviously an important partner to Ole Miss, but it still looks like Ole Miss. Check, check, check. It's a good look. It's just simply a very good look.
I said during the offseason that Ole Miss does this uniform thing to where they're becoming what Oregon is, but the difference is everything that Ole Miss does is within their historical color scheme. Like you said, everything looks like Ole Miss. It's not a situation where Florida, who has some of the best looking uniforms in all of college football, decides to remove all the color from it and come out in black jerseys. Tell me what black means to Florida. Tell me what hot pink means to Oregon. Oregon does that as far as their gimmick, as far as their bit. But Ole Miss is able to do this on their normal color scheme. And for those who are old enough to remember, Ole Miss was the original Oregon. When everybody else had a white jersey and a single color jersey, Ole Miss had multiple color jerseys on both sides going back to the 50s, 60s, and 70s. The difference is when everybody else went to 35,000 uniforms, Ole Miss was still at 4 or 5 uniforms. But now Ole Miss is playing catch up there. But this is kind of their wheelhouse. This is what they do, and they do it really well. The thing that I really enjoy about this helmet is you can wear it with all 3 home jerseys. We still do not know what the Oklahoma game is going to look like. They could come out in red jerseys, and that would be perfectly fine. They could come out in powder blue, and I think that would low-key really look good because of the light blue accents in the helmet. Or they could come out in a navy jersey. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I know this helmet looks good.
I want to see that with red. And I guess we're only going to see it with one jersey. I wish that they would release like what that looks like on top of each one. But I think if I were to choose, I think red would be my choice there. But, I think it'll look good with all of them. And especially if they do powder, and I have noticed, just like everybody else is, they are using more and more powder blue. My assumption is Lane Kiffin just really likes it. I think that's part of it. Is just he just likes the powder blue color. It's a good look. But what I love about the powder blue is they didn't manufacture it. That is something that with college football, traditions don't make sense to outsiders. The cowbells don't make sense to anybody else. Mississippi State fans love the cowbells, right? Traditions. Look at everything that Texas A&M does. It's all very weird to outsiders, but you know who doesn't think it's weird? Texas A&M. So who cares what everybody else thinks? College football is rooted in old school traditions, things that happened a long time ago that we still do today because that's what we do. The powder blue color at Ole Miss is rooted in the very fabric of the football program. The most iconic figures that played football at Ole Miss, Archie Manning and Chucky Mullins, wore powder blue. And it's got a cool story attached to it, kind of like a legend of how that color came to be anyway.
Yeah.
So I know people love like that. That's a topic that we have sometimes on the show is, are they going too much in powder blue? And well, it's not traditional Ole Miss. I push back, and yes, it is. It is very traditional Ole Miss, and using it more is only just paying homage to an origin story that is a really cool one, and your legends also wore the color. So I love what they're doing with the uniforms right now, and here's just another one where it's like, yep, it makes sense. It looks good. It's like everything they're doing there is just they're hitting home runs every time they step up to bat. It just everything is working at Ole Miss right now. Uniforms, all the way up to the actual play on the field.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. And this also, with this Realtree game being Oklahoma, it leaves one thing that I really want to happen. If this can happen, if Ole Miss is undefeated whenever they play Georgia, and I get it, that's a big if, but if Ole Miss is undefeated when they play Georgia, I want the powder blue helmets with the numbers on the side of the helmets, the navy blue jerseys, and be a tribute to Johnny Vaught, because this is the first time since that era that a game like this would happen. If that game gets there, I think Ole Miss needs to go full traditional for that Georgia game.
Ooh, interesting. See, I don't hate the powder blue on blue like some people do either. I don't mind that look at all. What are they going to wear for Georgia though? That's what you would do, but what do you think they're going to do?
They're going to wear, it's going to be navy likely. Because of Georgia being red on, it's going to be a red everywhere. But how they do the helmets now, if Ole Miss just goes their straight blues with the navy gray, that's still a fantastic look, and that would absolutely work. But I do like the idea of going full traditional if a game like that happens, just to pay homage for what that means. And the older people in the Ole Miss fan base would get a kick out of it because they'll go back and have that nostalgia for when they were a kid, seeing games just like that happen, and now getting to see it again when they're in that older age. I think all of that would work really good with branding, and I mean, we'll see. That's just my thought on that.
Yeah, and hopefully that game's at night, but I guess Ole Miss is not going to get that lucky.
Yeah, it's a weird situation. This Oklahoma game that they're going to debut the Realtree helmets at 11 o'clock in the morning. Kentucky's at 11 o'clock in the morning. Mississippi State's at 2:30 in the afternoon. So the lone hope for a home night game is the Georgia Bulldogs, and there's still a chance it could be that 2:30 game as well.
I understand Kentucky. Like, if you look at the slate of games that weekend, Kentucky being at 11, it makes sense. That's fine. I still, regardless of the explanations, do not understand Oklahoma. I don't understand, if you look at that weekend, how that is that way. Although I think there are losses coming for Oklahoma. I know that at the present, they are undefeated. At the present, they are ranked. I have watched all three of their games. They cannot protect. Arnold's a good athlete, but he's struggling throwing the football. I don't think they're very explosive offensively. I think losses are about to start stacking up starting this weekend, which now that I said that, bet the house on the Sooners. But I think that Oklahoma is going to come into Oxford not wounded by the time they get there.
Yeah, it's a situation where I do a show called the SEC Squad that airs on Thursday night on the Locked On Network. And we had a conversation. It's like for 2 years, everybody said, hey, get your trench play in line. If you're coming into the SEC, get your trench play in line. Texas did that to their credit. Their offensive and defensive line, they're just monsters. Oklahoma lost all 5 offensive linemen. They've had 3 injuries this year. They have problems at offensive line. And now they're going to go up against one of the top defensive lines in the country in Tennessee. Then you get Texas. Ole Miss is on that list. I mean, it's just an assembling line of people that are going to chew that offensive line up and spit them out.
Yeah, and then they're in Jordan-Hare next weekend. And don't – I know it's in Norman, but don't discount South Carolina either. It's just –
that defensive line is good.
Yeah, it is. Welcome to the SEC, guys. This is – ooh, it's going to be tough for them. So I'm very curious to see what kind of Oklahoma team will show up to Oxford by the time that game rolls around. But it's so interesting how you look at the schedule going into the season and how quickly perceptions have changed about the teams that they're playing, but the expectations have not. I kind of think things have balanced out a little bit. I expected to be more impressed with Oklahoma than I am. I have changed that game from, at least from my perspective, to a game I expect them to win to a game that, like, there's no doubt that they will. Like, I put a W next to Oklahoma when they came to Oxford, but I thought, that could be tough. That could be tough. Oklahoma's going to travel well. Venables has – no, like, that to me is like they're going to win that football game now. But South Carolina and Columbia went from, easy win to they better play well or else they won't. So the expectations for the season have not changed for me, but how they get there is slightly altered.
Yeah, could be interesting. Anyway, thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen of the day. We're free and available in all the podcast apps. When we come back, we're going to turn our attention towards Georgia State and this weekend a little bit more. Stick around for that. You heard us talk a lot about FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. Well, we have something a little bit different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with YouTube TV's base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. You can get Ole Miss at -36 against Georgia Southern this weekend, or their national championship odds, which have gotten better. They're now plus 1,200 to win the whole enchilada. Jackson Dart's Heisman's getting better as well. He's plus 600 as well. It's like 6-1. Whatever your flavor is, you can get it today. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. Game Time is the place to get your Ole Miss tickets with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seats, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying Ole Miss tickets. There's not a bad seat in Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. There's just not. But Game Time makes it to where you can see the view from every single seat wherever you go, so you know exactly what you're getting before you pay the money. Their lowest price guarantee, event cancellation, job loss protection, all of that customer service stuff that you'll love, they have. So take the guesswork out of buying Ole Miss tickets with Game Time. And with this being the most anticipated season in Ole Miss history, I might be able to help you out with tickets as well. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, all one word, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Stop by the College Corner in Oxford, Mississippi, just off of Sisk Avenue for all of your Ole Miss sports need. The Georgia Southern game Saturday is a powder game, so fans can head on over to the College Corner or visit collegecornerstore.com to be ready for Saturday night's game. So, Michael, let's turn our attention towards Georgia Southern with them coming in. And I did a show this morning talking about the struggles that Georgia Southern has had stopping the run. And everybody talks about Ashton Jeanty for Boise State and his 20 carries and 260 yards and 6 touchdowns. But what a lot of people are not talking about is his backup had 9 carries for 120 yards and a touchdown in that game. So it's not just a Jeanty problem. That, to me, looks like a Georgia Southern problem.
Absolutely. And the thing is, regardless of who it is. I think Ole Miss is going to have success running the football anyway. It's just what they do. But this week in particular, and everybody's been very curious about Ulysses Bentley and why hasn't he played? And Kiffin made reference to it on Monday that, well, for one, he wasn't 100% all offseason. I think when he did Jared Ivey's podcast, Ivey even said, got to get you out of that boot or something like that. There was some kind of offseason injury anyway, but the closer they get to more important games, the more I do think that you're going to see more of him. Sometimes 1 + 1 does equal 2. Sometimes it doesn't, but it kind of strikes me as a situation where there is some kind of doghouse because he's playing in garbage time and he's playing on special teams. So if he's hurt, then you don't play him on special teams and you don't play him when you're winning by 100. And the concept of saving him for like keeping him a secret before Kentucky comes to town doesn't make sense to me either, because nobody in the SEC is going to be surprised by Ulysses Bentley. He's not a secret. And that frankly, just it doesn't make sense. I think that although I have no insight on this, it feels like there's a doghouse situation going on here, which why you haven't seen as much of him. But also, who are you taking carries from? Yeah. Henry Parrish's numbers are outstanding, and he looks different than he did the last time he was at Ole Miss. I mean, he's older. He's been coached by Kevin Smith, who does an objectively very good job with running backs. But he's very, very good. And no, he's not a power back. When you need 3rd and 1 to ice the game against Kentucky, can he give you that tough 1 yard? I don't know. But he's averaging 8 yards per carry, and he pass protects really well, and he's catching the ball consistently out of the backfield. And so I talk about it because we have to, but I don't really care at the moment where Bentley is, because the guy that's getting the majority of the carries so far has played awesome football. And so why take the ball away from him when he's playing that well? The running back room's interesting for sure. You haven't seen much of Amos either, but why can't we stop and look at Parrish and say that the dude's been awesome? That's why he's playing so much.
Yeah, absolutely. When you look at him, he's got 354 yards on the year, 45 carries. That's nearly like 8 yards per carry, 9 yards
like 7.7.
Yeah, something like that. He has 6 touchdowns. And this is with Ole Miss not running the ball against Furman. They specifically threw the ball against Furman. If they'd have wanted to, Henry Parrish would have had 150 yards in that game as well.
Exactly. And so, we'll see if and Matt Jones, his story is great, and he's earned the opportunity for sure, and he's taking advantage of it. I am curious to see when the competition increases what the carry distribution is like, and if they continue to use the big defensive linemen to get the 1 yard in short yardage. It's a fun play to watch. Pegues is very good at it. I do wonder if it's the best thing for the team to have him taking those hits, but if it works, I guess.
Well, here's my thought on that. I think using Pegues on every 3rd and 1, you want to get a first down like that, and a power run is coming. That is fine. Ole Miss has the depth on the defensive line to be able to withstand JJ Pegues being out, and he does collisions every single play. So if we're worried about the guy getting hit, he's getting hit. And Henry Parrish, the way it's set up right now, he is kind of a perfect fit for what Lane Kiffin does on offense. It is very run the ball on 3rd and 8. It is very do what you're not expecting. And he has the speed and the shiftiness, and especially the lateral movement. There was a tweet from Cole Kublik that was taken from the end zone of a Henry Parrish touchdown run against Wake Forest, to him going side to side. And Ole Miss has a type at running back. They always find these guys with extra lateral skills in their movements that help them out. And Henry Parrish is no different there. I just think he is a perfect fit for what's going on, especially with the defenses being so scared to death of what's on the outside. And to move that safety forward and start creeping towards the line of scrimmage, which that would make a problem for somebody like Henry Parrish. But you can't do that because of how good Trey Harris and Juice Wells and those guys are on the outside, because if you walk forward, Lane's going to go straight over the top.
Yeah, and he pass protects well. Obviously, he's not the most physical guy out there, but he is a willing pass protector. And so I've just been really impressed by Henry Parrish. When they signed him, I thought, hey, experienced guy, good complimentary piece. And he looks like he's more than that. I understand what the competition level is, but if you look at the competition level that Ole Miss played last year, there were times they didn't run the football that well against lesser competition a year ago with Quinshawn. So
Quinshawn averaged less than 4 yards per carry most of the year. He had 2 or 3 big games to where he got his average just over 4. Ole Miss did not run the ball particularly well last year.
no, especially on a yards per carry average, even against lesser teams. So
Mhm.
I'm going to continue to talk about the running back room because people want to, but to me, I think it's just a credit to what Henry Parrish has become, and until proven otherwise, he's the best back on the team at the moment. And so it's an interesting deal. I think that again, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw a wider carry distribution even starting this weekend moving forward. But until he gives you a reason to take him off the field, don't take him off the field.
Coming up, Jackson Dart is set to light up the scoreboard, but can he post Heisman-level numbers in what will be the Rebels' last non-conference tune-up game before SEC play? We'll break that down next. Hey, Ole Miss fans, have you heard about ROY? It stands for Return on You, and it's a groundbreaking platform that lets you, the fans, get involved in NIL like never before by contributing directly towards your favorite athletes. By supporting players directly, you can help shape rosters, retain talent, and keep your favorite athletes out of the transfer portal. They offer a really cool thing. Find out about that. As you know, NIL has changed the game for athletes. Well, ROY is changing that NIL game for fans. With ROY, fans can directly support players. ROY gives you the power to take back and keep your favorite college athletes, letting you play a key role in shaping your team's future while helping athletes maximize their NIL potential. Plus, when you contribute to a successful campaign, you get exclusive content access like decision announcements, behind-the-scenes footage, personal reflections available only to the fans who supported that athlete. So download ROY on iOS or Android and enter the referral code Locked On. That's 2 words, Locked On, to be automatically entered into a sweepstakes to win $5,000 cash. Visit joinroy.com for more details. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. Get off the sidelines and into the NIL game with ROY. Support the players and change the game. All right, so Michael, Jackson Dart is leading the country by over 100 yards in passing right now. He is having an unbelievable first 3 games of the season. And it makes sense that going into this last non-conference game, you would need to kind of pad stats a little bit. So you might be able to see Jackson Dart throw for 350 to 400 yards, and I imagine you're going to see them stretch the field. But here's the problem. Georgia Southern knows this too. So they're going to see a bunch of cloud coverage, everything in front, try and slow it down. Can Jackson Dart get to the numbers he probably needs to keep this momentum going?
Yeah, and I think it's weekly. I have been so high on him in this group of weapons and the offense as a whole. And I mean, again, they've played Wake Forest and Middle Tennessee and Furman, but what he's done so far this year and how they've been able to scheme guys open in spite of what you're talking about, teams being so afraid to get beaten that they get beaten anyway. I think that it will be a weekly thing. Including even against Georgia. There is, at the moment, there's no more projecting with this offense, right? You know exactly who Jackson Dart is at this point. And it seems like he's even taken a step forward. I know the competition level, but throwing the football vertically, he has been exceptional this season. He wasn't bad a year ago. I think that was kind of a false narrative about how he's bad with the deep ball. The stats tell you he's not. But it looks like
the deep center, he was not good last year for whatever reason. On the outside to Trey Harris, whenever they're doing that, he did fine. But that deep middle, he did not do well. They did not have anybody in the middle of the field that stretched a defense there. So they didn't throw the ball there much. That was part of the problem. But now with all of the weapons that he has, he's completing 83% of his passes, and PFF wise, he's a top 5 player in the country right now. And it doesn't matter who you're playing. If you're completing 83% of your passes, if you're completing 30 in a row, I mean, Auburn couldn't do that on air right now.
No. I love their matchup with everybody on the schedule. I mean, you were wondering about Juice Wells' health, or you, the general you, not you, Steven, but you were wondering about Juice Wells' health this offseason. He looks as explosive as he's ever been. Caden Lee has taken that step forward that everybody around the team told you that he did. On the field, he's done it. Watkins now back healthy. The two tight ends, Parrish catching the ball out of the backfield. I would put Ole Miss's weapons in that entire group plus quarterback against anybody in college football. I would take Ole Miss's quarterback and weapons over anybody. That includes Texas, that includes Georgia, that includes Ohio State. And I know Ohio State's got wide receivers like crazy, but I like Dart a lot better than Howard. I would take those weapons paired with Kiffin's scheme over anybody in the country. So, yes, I think it'll happen this weekend, but I think it's going to happen every single week. Now, they're human beings. It's not going to be 400 yards every single game, but the Ole Miss weapons versus defense matchup is pro Ole Miss every single week, and yes, including Georgia. They are that good, that experienced, that proven, and the scheme. Lane Kiffin's greatest strength as an offensive coach. It's unbelievable. I still can't figure out how they're able to do this so often, is getting receivers uncovered. And it happens all the time. How on earth, every single week, they're able to get their best players wide, open the way that they are. It's his best strength as a coach. I mean, they win one-on-one matchups, but so often they don't have to because guys are just, it's unbelievable. So I have completely and totally drank the Kool-Aid on this offense. I think that, again, like I said, they are a favorable matchup against every single team on the schedule, and I expect big numbers from Dart and those weapons literally every single week of the season.
All right, two more questions. Is there another quarterback in the country to play in college football right now that doesn't have NFL in front of his name that you would trade for Dart? Trade over Dart?
Nope.
No.
And I know Carson Beck's supposed to go 1-1, whatever. No, I would not trade, especially not because of what Jackson means to the team as well. Like you can't take that away from him either. That's why they didn't take him out in the Egg Bowl. Physically, Jackson could barely play in that game, but emotionally,
his arm over his shoulder.
But you don't take that with what he means to that team. So on top of it being physical ability, it's also the emotional side that what he does and what he's done for Ole Miss football is very, very rare in college football. Third year as a starter, that's not particularly rare, but the gravitas that he brings to that locker room is rare. He is a leader beyond his years. And remember, he's only 21 years old. He's not like the guy at Oklahoma State who's pushing 40. He's young, but just leadership beyond his years. When he's done playing football, he will be an exceptional coach if he wants to be.
Yes, I absolutely agree with that. And the one thing that I want to add to your point is Ole Miss scuffled in the second and third quarter yesterday. Do you know when that stopped? That was when Jackson Dart said, screw it, and I'm just going to barrel into the end zone. That's when it stopped. That's when the will to fight from Wake Forest ended. That's when that game essentially ended, is when Jackson Dart said, no, you're not tackling me. I'm going Tim Tebow.
And I don't want him taking hits like that very often. When they call design run plays when they're up 3 touchdowns, it drives me crazy. It's like, why are you letting him get hit? But that was one of those moments where it's like, okay, the alpha thing. It was, no, we're not playing well. We're kind of screwing around. This game's over. I will end it here. And when the team, they loved it in real time, but then they go into the film session and where they see that, 3 Wake Forest defenders that he ran through, they already love him to death, clearly, but that just adds to the, I would die for this guy. And you can't replace that.
Listen, I have said this and I get pushback from Florida fans. And right now, you can imagine why I'm getting pushback, but I get pushback because I say Jackson Dart has a lot of Tim Tebow in him. And the Tim Tebow is the fact that people will run through a brick wall for that guy.
Yeah.
They love it.
100%.
Yeah. It is something crazy. Anyway, what questions, we haven't really talked about Georgia Southern that much, but what questions do you think they'll answer this weekend?
So I'm still curious about the defensive secondary. I think that there was at least one guy for Ole Miss that got a little bit picked on by Wake Forest this past weekend. So that's what I am closely watching. I think Georgia Southern's going to be able to sling it a little bit. They're going to be coached well and schemed well, and they've got the ability to score.
Yes.
If they have time to do it with this Ole Miss defensive line. God bless you. But that's what I'm watching closest is, one, can they get better help from the safeties? I don't think safety play has been, quote unquote, great for Ole Miss the way I expected it to be. But luckily, it's guys that can play better than they have to this point. But what's the defensive back rotation going to look like? Is Turnage? I think that he's looked good in his time. Is he going to get more playing time? How are they going to alleviate the penalties that they had last week? And then some of the, they're just kind of getting beat at times in the secondary. That is my biggest question about this team is right there is the secondary. Who will it be and how will it look as the competition level continues to rise? And then, Jerquan Scott on the offensive line. They played him a little bit as they're working him back. Kiffin said that, center is where he's going to be. So now that he's back and is going to play more what the interior of that offensive line looks like now that he's going to be playing where they expected him to play.
All right, Michael, thank you very much for stopping by. We will talk to you a little bit later. Appreciate you stopping by. I got to go let Molly maid into the house. They have to clean the house and take care, buddy.
See you, man.
All right, man.